4-Hour News 8.
We are staying on top of that breaking news we just told you about moments ago, a fire at Fifth Third Ballpark. Now we have a crew headed to the scene. You can see on this M.Dot camera, those flames are growing consistently, much bigger than we just showed you a few minutes ago. A lot of smoke coming out of there. It appears to be in that suite area. Now we are making calls. We have crews headed there. Now that could be the same area that was just renovated before their 20th season opener last spring. We brought you live reports when that happened. We're not sure how this started, exactly what's happening there, but you can see this huge fire there at Fifth Third Ballpark.
Keep in mind, and many of you have been in this ballpark, that concourse area, there's the concessions, and then right above them are the skyboxes. So there's a lot of void space in that area, a lot of places to burn, a lot of places that can feed the oxygen, and it's tough getting to that fire. This is obviously a ballpark, so it's fenced off. Now they do have water supply inside there that the firefighters could tie into once they got here. The problem with that is it burned so quick, so intense, that about 10-15 minutes ago we heard a call over the scanner saying everybody evacuate. Pardon me, let me catch my breath here. Everybody evacuate and get out of there, let the fire burn, surround it from the outside with, you see aerial ladders over here. I think it's the city of Grand Rapids, Plainfield Township. They're gonna just get above the thing and try to put it out that way. Yeah, and Rick, we want to stay on the fire itself here at the west end of the ballpark, but some other information I want to give you. We talked about evacuations, we talked about traffic problems. Kent County Sheriff's Department just sent one of their supervisors out here. They are asking everybody to get out of this parking lot on the west side of the ballpark that is really causing problems for fire equipment coming in. US 131, also a major problem for companies responding, especially from the city of Grand Rapids, taking the expressway out. A lot of traffic backups there because of the gawkers. A lot of people try to get into the ballpark, and if you're familiar with the ballpark, there's that long drive off of West River Drive that comes in, and people are crowding that. They're getting into the parking lot, and that's really impeding the efforts of firefighters. They're allowing us, the news crews, to stay here. This is where we're all staging, but they're asking people to just stay away from the ballpark. You're just going to get in the way.
Right now, we want to get to 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker. He kind of gives us another perspective. Ken's in the right center field area. Ken, what are you seeing where you are?
Yeah, we're down just beyond the right field wall. And ironically, 20 years ago when this place opened up, this is where I was standing to watch the very first game over this wall back in 1994. Now, we are in that stream of smoke that's coming through, so it's very difficult for us to actually see from here just because of the smoke and the sun and the snow. But from here, when the smoke clears, you can actually see lots of flames jumping high into the sky, and you can also see right through that part of the ballpark.
Here's another perspective, if we can take this shot here from our big wall here as we take a look at the situation that's going on. This is an M.Dot cam that's giving you an idea here. I apologize for the shakiness. It is a little bit windy out there, as Matt was talking about. It's starting to pick up a little bit anyway. This is the ballpark. This would be left field over here. Right over here is the right field area. You can see the smoke that's starting to come up here, or has been coming up here for the better part of an hour or so. This is that ladder truck that Joe was talking about, that you could see the water wasn't coming out of it. They weren't able to get any kind of water to it. They were possibly bringing in another truck to replace it.
The right-hand side of that shot, see a lot of white smoke coming out. That's right where Joe is. And in that right-hand side, that other shot coming from our camera, you can see they're now getting water on those flames. That's why you're seeing the whiter smoke that's coming up right there. There's the aerial ladder that is getting that water on there. That's the one they had a problem with a moment ago, and they're making some progress. But again, that's at the very far end of the ballpark. Question is, what we can't see as well is what's happening in that center part, but it appears that they've got plenty of water going in there too. And while it's too early to say it's under control, they are certainly making progress on this from our perspective down here.
That fire chief was able to take just a few seconds of his time to give us an update on the situation and how they're fighting this fire. So let's hear what he had to say just moments ago.
Fire started in one of the suites. It's got into the attic. It's spreading across. We're trying to get in front of it. For whatever reason, the sprinkler system isn't holding it back.
Brett, we're in center field in the ballpark, just outside the stadium club. This is our first perspective from inside Fifth Third Ballpark. I'm going to step out of the way and give you a view of this. You still see that heavy smoke pouring out of the west end of the ballpark, if you will, where the fire started. And just barely through the middle there, you can see the main concourse coming in, the main entrance to the ballpark. If there is any good news to talk about here, it is when you stretch off to the east. That whole eastern section along the third baseline appears to be intact, does not appear to be damaged. The guess is there's some smoke damage up there, but something they can actually clean up, nothing destroyed. If there is any good news, that is what is happening out here. Obviously, the best news is that there was about 30 people working, as there usually is here in the ballpark, and everybody got out okay. Things can be fixed. Things can be rebuilt.
This is a breaking news alert from 24-Hour News 8.
Going straight out now to the Fifth Third Ballpark, where Whitecaps are making a statement after a major fire has destroyed part of the stadium. Let's go there live now.
Very difficult and emotional day for all of us here with the Whitecaps organization. We've had a significant fire here at Fifth Third Ballpark, which has greatly damaged the entire right field section or first base section of the ballpark. Very fortunately, we were able to evacuate everyone. Everyone was safe, and we're very happy about that. I probably would like to start with thanking all the first responders for a very quick response to our difficulties. And I believe that their quick responses helped save a significant portion of the ballpark. And we're very appreciative of everyone's efforts. And I know that they've still got quite a bit of work to do. And we continue to pray for their continued safety because the weather conditions are very difficult outdoors. 20 years ago, folks used to say, you know, if you build it, they will come, given the movie. I'd like to believe here once again, if we rebuild it, they will come once again. Lou and I have been very, very blessed with support of this community for this franchise in our entire history. And I think that they're going to rally around us and they're going to help us through our difficult time. And we're going to be playing baseball again come April 9th this year. That I can absolutely promise everybody. We've had a significant fire here at Fifth Third Ballpark. To see the place in flames, it was very, very difficult. It's a lot more than just a business. It's a part of our fabric, part of our families. Our kids grew up here. We love this place. We'll rebuild it and we'll be just as strong and just as vibrant as we ever have been.
This is 24-Hour News 8.
First at 5, a raging fire rips through a portion of the Fifth Third Ballpark. And breaking now, we just learned it was started by a work crew using a heater in a suite. We're talking to the fire chief, and we'll have more on that in just moments. An estimated third or so of the facility is in ruins. It is a heartbreaking sight to anyone who's been to this park, a place full of memories for millions. Good evening, everyone. It is quite a day of news. I'm Rick Albin in studio.
And I'm Marley Ginter, field anchoring our live team coverage here at the ballpark. Just quite a scene to see out here. We do have fire investigators on scene right now, as well as work crews working to get the electricity back on, and several people right now surveying some of the damage. I want to step off camera so you can see where we've been able to come up close here to the first base gate. You can get an idea of just some of the damage here, but I want to tell you, we want to show you what it looks like from the air, because boy, can you see the devastation. We sent a chopper up to give you a better idea of just how much of that stadium is damaged. The entire length of the structure along the first base line wiped out, and that includes the suites and most of what was under them. Now here's what we are working to bring you tonight. We'll tell you what happened, how 30 employees managed to get out safely. We'll tell you the problems firefighters faced, including issues with the building's sprinkler systems and the lack of hydrants. That's what we've been investigating today. Plus, we're going to tell you what's next for the future of the ballpark, as we've been speaking with, of course, many officials out here trying to figure out when or if baseball season will start on time. We have multiple crews bringing you these stories tonight. Ken Kolker, Henry Erb, Jack Doles. But first, we want to get to 24-Hour News 8's Joe LaFurgie, who just received some breaking information on how this fire may have started. Joe?
That's right, Marley. I just got off the phone with the fire chief here in Plainfield Township, Dave Peterson. He tells me that late this afternoon they have been talking to employees, some work crews, I should say, that we're inside the one of the suites here at Fifth Third Park, and I want to step out of the way and show you as those suites, what's left of the suites and the area under them continues to smolder. There's even a small fire going on at the top of what was one of those suites. Chief Peterson tells me there was a work crew in one of the suites this morning. They were using a small heater. That heater caused a small fire. That work crew put that fire out. Apparently didn't call the fire department. That work crew thought the fire was out, put that fire out, left, and when they came back, the whole area was engulfed. 11 a.m., smoke is seen billowing from a suite at Fifth Third Ballpark. About 30 employees are evacuated. The sprinkler system failed to control the spread of the flames. It took fire crews several minutes to stretch hose lines to get to the fire, allowing those flames to race from west to east throughout the suites and concession area along the first base line.
It did start in one of the suites, spread into the attic area, and once it gets in the attic, it tends to move pretty fast because it has a lot of oxygen and there aren't a lot of fire breaks.
Plainfield firefighters get some help from Grand Rapids, Walker, Alpine, and Rockford. Within a half hour of the first call, the fire overruns the first base side of the park. Crews on the concourse were told to get out. It was too dangerous to fight the fire from inside. Along with the heavy fire conditions, water pressure was an issue.
Everything from about the center home plate down the first base side is pretty much destroyed.
Flames began to eat away at suites and concessions along the third base side of the park, but fire crews battling low water pressure and sub-zero wind chills made a stand, stopping the flames from destroying the rest of the park. And again, back here live at Fifth Third Park, as you see those flames still smoldering at the top and on the bottom there, and that's what crews are going to be working on throughout the night, all these little hot spots that come up. They'll be trying to stamp those fires out. And just to recap what we learned at the top of the hour, it appears a work crew was in one of those suites sometime this morning. They were working with they had some sort of space heater or some kind of heater inside. There was a fire broke out, a small fire. That work crew put it out, left. When they came back, the ballpark was engulfed in flames. Now, to many, this may just be a ballpark fire. To others, well, this is a tough memory to take on. We'll hear more reaction at 6. Back to you.
And Joe, just to make sure everyone understands too, this may have started with something that the work crews were doing, but all of those workers were able to get out safely.
Well, you had employees of the ballpark inside working downstairs, and they actually work on the other side of the ballpark that was pretty much had just small damage of the flames. About 30 people, they were able to get out, but there was also a crew, apparently some kind of construction crew or work crew in one of those suites working separately. Everybody got out okay. There have been no injuries to report. An ambulance showed up just a few minutes ago. Marley, you might have seen it from your vantage point. Somebody, and we're not sure who here, reporting some lightheadedness and dizziness, which is to be expected from all the smoke that everybody's been smelling all afternoon, but it was not a serious case. They're taking those folks away, but that is the only time an ambulance has had to come here for any injuries, that according to the fire chief I talked to just a few minutes ago.
Okay, Joe LaFurgey, thank you so much. Now, we've learned one of the big problems firefighters faced today was a lack of hydrants. Now, they say it hindered their effort to first fight these fires. So 24-Hour News 8's Henry Erb has been looking into that part of the story and is telling us why this lack of fire hydrants actually hurt the firefighters. Henry?
Yeah, Marley, low water pressure and a delay in getting the battle against this fire started. That's the nasty surprise that firefighters found when they got here today. They had to pipe water more than 1,000 feet from hydrants outside the ballpark property. That meant that when the water got to the fire, the stream didn't have the power they needed, and having to lay hose long distances delayed fighting the fire by 15 minutes, according to the chief.
There's 2 hydrants, and the first 2 apparatus use those. The other hydrants are on the edges of the property, and because of that, and because of the size of the property, it was a long lay.
The chief says there weren't enough fire hydrants close enough for the number of hoses they needed to try to get ahead of the fire as it burned steadily through the building. A fire that they never got under control until it ran out of things to burn.
When they rebuild, we're going to be requesting more hydrants. Probably requiring more hydrants is a better way to put that.
And during a news conference this afternoon, ballpark officials say they're going to do whatever the fire department asks them to do. Back to you.
Now, despite the damage, one of the men responsible for bringing the Whitecaps to West Michigan says that baseball will be started in the spring. 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker is continuing our live team coverage with that part of the story. He heard from that owner today. Ken?
Yeah, Marley, we're standing over the right center field wall, and I first wanted to show you something. That there are still fires smoldering there along the first baseline. Those fires have been going since almost the beginning, and they're still. I can see at least 2 of those fires. Now, as for the future of the stadium, it was actually 20 years ago, last April, that I stood on this very spot and actually watched that very first opening game. Today, the man who helped bring baseball and the Whitecaps to West Michigan got emotional as he talked about the fire.
There are a great deal of emotions. It's a lot more than just a business. It's a community member, and we've got a lot of ourselves into this, a lot of family.
This stadium is a big part of West Michigan. More than 8 million fans have gone through the gates. Now, Whitecaps co-founder Dennis Baxter is counting again on fan support.
And I think that they're going to rally around us, and they're going to help us through our difficult time.
The fire destroyed 11 or 12 suites all down the right field line, but none of his 30 employees were hurt. Even as the stadium still smoldered, Baxter stood in a room beyond the center field wall, a room that smelled like smoke, and vowed a strong comeback. The Whitecaps, he said, will play here on opening day, April 8th.
20 years ago, folks used to say, you know, if you build it, they will come, given the movie. I'd like to believe here once again, if we rebuild it, they will come once again.
Though he acknowledged the stadium might not be totally rebuilt by then. Could you open here opening day without that rebuilt?
Certainly we can. The playing field's in perfect condition. The bowl of the stadium at this point does not look to be touched, and so we have every intention of playing here in April.
Now, Baxter said that the team's parent club, the Detroit Tigers, has offered its support. Now, this year they're going to be playing the Midwest All-Star game here, and Baxter said that game will go on as planned. Live in Grand Rapids, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
Ken, thank you. And the ballpark means so much, of course, to so many of you, and really it means so much to many of us out here covering this story. But it also has a very special bond with the players. Jack Doles is in studio with that story.
Yeah, Marley, fans have flocked to this park since it opened in 1994. It's been a part of our summers ever since. But Fifth Third's Ballpark has also had a special bond with the players that have come through the Midwest League. Take a look at this video from 1994. This was the first time the Whitecaps players had a chance to see the brand new park, and they were blown away, moved some players to tears. Remember, they played, this Whitecap team played in a dump of a park in Madison, Wisconsin the year before, where they played in front of sparse crowds. Since then, more than 8 million fans have watched the Whitecaps play baseball at Fifth Third Ballpark. It's hosted 2 All-Star games, 5 Midwest League Championship Series. 3 of them clinched in front of the home fans, setting off wild celebrations. The Caps scheduled to host the All-Star game again this year, and they are going to do everything in their power, Denny Baxter says, to make sure the 50th Midwest League All-Star game is going on here in West Michigan.
Is this going to change anything?
Absolutely not. We'll have a better celebration than we ever had.
And so you would expect to have that rebuilt at least by the All-Star game?
Yes, sir.
And Marley, coming up in sports at 6, we'll talk to one of the men from Midwest League, how they plan and believe that the Whitecaps will be able to pull this thing off.
This is a hurdle to overcome, to be sure, but we will overcome it. And we're going to deliver to this community what they've known to expect over the last 20 years. We'll get through this, we'll be seeing baseball in April, and we'll be a good, strong family and a good, strong community member. We'll rebuild it, and we'll be just as strong and just as vibrant as we ever have been.
This is 24-Hour News 8.
Fifth Third Ballpark burns. Our aerial video shows the damage. Suites in the clubhouse torched along the first baseline, and now we know this all likely started by a work crew using a space heater in a suite. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Albin.
What are we doing?
And I'm Marley. Third Ballpark. We are reporting live out here tonight. The damage is severe.
Obviously having some audio problems. As you can see, there were intense flames ripping through the ballpark. So many of us have spent so many summer nights there with family and friends. It was really heartbreaking for many people who reported to us. We were on the air for 3 hours bringing you live coverage, and that, of course, continues tonight. Our crews are all over the ballpark area, finding out how this unfolded, some major challenges for firefighters facing out there. And, of course, we're looking at the future of the ballpark. Do we have Joe LaFurgey? Is he available? We start now with 24-hour News 8's Joe LaFurgey, who is inside the stadium. Joe, what a day out there.
Yeah, Rick, pretty sad. It's tough to see over the shoulder because the sun's gone down and smoke still shrouds what's left of the area along that first base line, those clubhouse seatings and the concession stands and all of that. They will be hitting hot spots throughout the night. You saw at 5 some flames perking up. The crews tell me that they'll have people on the scene trying to hit those hot spots. They'll be tough to get to because there is so much damage. Also, at the top of the 5, we learned what may have caused this fire. I talked to the fire chief, Dave Peterson, here in Plainfield. He tells me there was a work crew inside one of those suites this morning, mid-morning, using a small space heater, some sort of heater. That heater, they believe, caused a small fire they put out, or so they thought. That crew left the suite. When they came back, the whole side was engulfed in flames. Now, if not for the work of firefighters, they might have lost the entire stadium. The acrid black smoke could be seen all the way downtown, but witnesses like Josh Abbasi, who works at the coffee shop across the street from the park, were thinking the same thing. The park can't burn down.
It's the ballpark. You go there, I mean, you don't think it'd ever catch on fire or be destroyed in any way.
The fire was first reported at about 11 this morning after smoke began billowing from a suite along the first baseline at Fifth Third Ballpark. About 30 employees got out. The sprinkler system failed to control the spread of the flames, and by the time firefighters arrived, the fire is racing from west to east through the suites in the concession area.
Start in one of the suites, spread into the attic area, and once it gets in the attic, it tends to move pretty fast because it has a lot of oxygen and there aren't a lot of fire breaks.
Plainfield firefighters got help from Grand Rapids crews, Alpine, Walker, and Rockford. Within a half hour of the first call, crews on the concourse were told to get out. It was too dangerous to fight the fire from inside. As the first base side burned, flames began to eat away at the third base suites and concession area. Hours later, as the smoke began to clear, signs of just how close the flames were to taking out the rest of the park were evident. Flames licked away at the suites and concession row along the third base side, but firefighters were able to stop that from happening. A positive note on a day that was anything but for local baseball fans.
It's just different seeing it when it's something so sentimental to so many people.
Chief Peterson also telling me that it also appears, and they're still checking this out, that part of that sprinkler system may have been shut down while they were doing the work. They're still investigating that. I asked him if they have a damage estimate. He said they're still adding that up, but he says start at $500,000 and go up. Back to you.
Joe LaFurgey, thank you. Just unbelievable to watch those flames and that smoke. And on top of it all, firefighters had 2 major complications they had to deal with today. Of course, these frigid temperatures out here, but also a lack of water. We're learning that there were just not enough fire hydrants at this stadium. 24 Hour News 8's Henry Erb has been investigating that today. Henry?
Yeah, Marley, it delayed getting water on this fire, and some of the hydrants that they had to use were so far away, the water pressure was low.
There weren't adequate number of hydrants for the amount of apparatus that we were trying to use.
And needed. They never were able to get ahead of the flames like they wanted.
We had to pull hose for quite a ways in order to get enough hose to fight the fire.
There are 2 hydrants right outside the ballpark, but they weren't enough. The first engines hooked up to them and tried to battle the flames, but they needed more water. To get it, they had to lay hose for more than 1,000 feet from hydrants off the property.
It took almost 15 minutes to get water flowing because of the amount of hose that we had to drag in order to get there.
The chief says that when the ballpark rebuilds, he will try to require more hydrants.
The number of hydrants is determined by the size of the structure and whether it's sprinkled or not. This building being sprinkled, they were able to have fewer hydrants. In this case, I think it was too few.
Now, ballpark officials tell us today that they will do whatever the fire department asks them to do. Back to you.
Henry, thank you. And this is a very busy ballpark. It hosts several major events throughout the year. 24 Hour News 8 Ken Colker continues our live coverage tonight with why it's so important that it gets rebuilt quickly. Ken?
Yeah, Marley, even as the stadium continued to smolder today, the team's owners vowed a comeback, saying that there will be a game played here on opening day.
20 years ago, folks used to say, you know, if you build it, they will come, given the movie. I'd like to believe here once again, if we rebuild it, they will come once again.
It was Dennis Baxter and Lou Chamberlain who had this dream about baseball in Grand Rapids more than 2 decades ago. Their dream became this, the West Michigan Whitecaps, the Detroit Tigers single-A franchise, and what is now Fifth Third Ballpark. How difficult is it to look out at what you see there?
You want me to start crying again, don't you? I have shed a few tears today. It's really difficult.
The fire destroyed 11 or 12 suites all down the right field line, along with a clubhouse. But he was thankful that none of his 30 employees were hurt. This stadium is a huge part of West Michigan. More than 8 million fans have gone through the gates.
And I think that they're going to rally around us and they're going to help us through our difficult time.
While the Whitecaps will rebuild, he was not certain the job could be done by opening day. Could you open here opening day without that rebuilt?
Certainly we can. The playing field's in perfect condition. The bowl of the stadium at this point does not look to be touched, and so we have every intention of playing here in April.
The next step, he says, is to start working with the insurance adjusters.
You get over that initial shock and you say, all right, what do we got to do? What's the job? What's the next task? And we'll set about that.
Now, it's hard to believe on a day like today, but opening day is just about a little more than 3 months away on April 8th, so they've got a lot of work to do. Live in Comstock Park, Ken Colker, 24 Hour News 8.
Ken, thank you. Just such an important piece to this community. And besides opening day in April, we want to give you a look at some of the other big events coming up. Winter Beer Festival is scheduled to happen in the ballpark's parking lot next month. The 50th annual Midwest League All-Star Game is scheduled for June. Whitecaps officials promise that all of those events will go on as scheduled. Now, joining me live now is CEO and co-founder of the West Michigan Whitecaps, Lou Chamberlain. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I know this has been a tough day for you.
Yeah, it was a rugged day. I was in Chicago, and they called me and told me what was going on. First thing we wanted to make sure is that everybody got out, and thankfully everybody got out. Nobody was injured. That's the most important thing. And then we start looking towards tomorrow and the day after and the day after.
Watching all of this, seeing all of this unfold and hearing some of these developments come out, such as the sprinkler system not working, not having enough fire hydrants in the area, what are you looking ahead to now as you start to rebuild? Making some changes?
You know, I just arrived here. I don't think it's very useful to speculate about things that we don't know anything about and the facts aren't in. So what I'm more interested in is looking here, seeing what we've got in front of us. Let's face it, we got a lot of work to do, but that's never stopped us before, and that won't stop us now. It's you know, I think as Denny said this afternoon, this is more than a business thing for us. This is a community engagement. This has been a 20-year love affair between the baseball fans of West Michigan and the Whitecaps, and we're going to do our darndest to make sure that we are up and running on April 8th when opening day.
Well, I think you hit it right out of the ballpark with that one, a community love affair, because as you can imagine, we have heard from so many fans who have been devastated to see this today, wanting to know, are you really confident that it's going to start back up on April 8th? When you say baseball on April 8th, are you saying baseball here in the ballpark?
We're gonna do our darndest to make sure that it happens that way. Tomorrow we're gonna start picking up the pieces, see what can be done. The field has not been damaged at all, so we're just gonna look at it, and we are full speed ahead. We know that the community's behind us. I've heard from so many great people, you know, from people who are just electricians or carpenters, and they say we'll do anything. And I've heard from people who say, you know what, my business dropped our season tickets a few years ago, but we're buying them now. And it's great to hear that, and it's important that we work as hard as we possibly can so that we can continue this love affair with baseball.
I brought my family out here. I know many of the people watching right now have done the same, so a lot of people behind you hoping that we can get this ballpark rebuilt and rebuilt quickly. Lou Chamberlain, CEO, co-founder with the Whitecaps, bringing Whitecaps to West Michigan. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Marley.
And we, of course, will continue our live team coverage out here in Comstock Park at the ballpark. For now, though, we want to turn things back over to the studio with Rick Alpin.
All right, Marley, thanks very much. You know, you heard it in Ken's piece a minute ago that so many of us have been to the ballpark. 8 million people have been out to see the Whitecaps play. Among those who have been going there since the stadium was built, Sports Director Jack Doles. Jack, you've been there for the good, the bad, the championships, the years that weren't so great, but the times were always a great time, and this was a bit of a shock today.
Yeah, a lot of great family memories for me, just watching my kid try and eat one of those Fifth Third burgers. How many people have done that? Yeah, during his news conference this afternoon, Denny Baxter said he and Lou Chamberlain, his partner, you just heard from him, were a couple of determined guys. I will not argue that point. It took them years of hard work to bring this franchise to West Michigan. Once they built this ballpark and brought the franchise here from Madison, Wisconsin, fans have flocked to see them play. And the bond with the park is just as great with the players. Once again, this is video from the first time the team stepped into the park in 1994. As you can see, brought some players to tears. Whitecaps owners have invested a great deal of time and energy and money to make sure this ballpark continued to be a place that people love to go. They expanded the seatings, built decks, installed new video boards and scoreboards. They've done a great job of making sure this experience of coming to the ballpark never gets old. Well, as you can see, once again, take a look at the damage here of Fifth Third Ballpark. And right here along the first base line, this is where the team's locker rooms were. They come through the tunnel here in the dugout and they go up. Those are completely gone. Those will have to be rebuilt along with all the suites up here. And again, this it's hard to look at that, really is. But they will rebuild. Once again, the All-Star Game scheduled to be there coming up in sports. We will hear from the Assistant Commissioner of the Midwest League. He intends to keep it here.
All right, Jack, thank you very much. And of course, our coverage of this ballpark fire doesn't stop here. We have a photo gallery showing the fire and damage at woodtv.com. And we're going to have all the new developments tonight at 10 and 11 on 24 Hour News 8.